And that's why we have invited Palerra to be able to show you across clouds how you can do security and compliance.
Thanks, Nagesh.
Thanks, Ganesh.
And I really want to thank all Nagesh and Microsoft team to inviting me to share some of our, what value we are able to generate out of the activity APIs that Nagesh talked about. So before I get in, 2 questions for you guys. How many of you here are responsible for securing O365? Okay, there are some. And the second one is, in your companies, other than O365, do you use any other clouds, any other cloud services such as Salesforce, AWS, Box, etc.? Okay, there are some. So I think for those of you who we are responsible for securing O365 and dealing with multiple clouds, you're going to definitely learn something next few minutes from here. So my background, the Ganesh, CTO, Palerra. So just a brief details on the company. We are a startup company, 2 years old. What we do is cloud security automation. So I'll talk about that in details next few minutes. Founded 2013, we just closed our Series B funding, fully funded by top-tier VCs. We have partnership with multiple cloud vendors. Of course, I wouldn't be here if you are not partner of Microsoft. In addition to Microsoft, we also have partnership with Salesforce, ServiceNow, and then also the Amazon Web Services. And we recently, proud to get recognized by Gartner as a 2015 risk management cool vendor. So let's talk about what's the problem here. In a cloud adoption, we all know obvious benefits, productivity. Now, what are the challenges primarily from the security perspective, right? I'm talking about really from the info security managers who are responsible for securing their employees, right? And security operations folks, IT administrators, right? CISOs, right? And CIOs. From their perspective, who are responsible for keeping the employees secure, keeping their data secure, keeping their companies compliant. Right? What are the challenges? So we put them in 3 high-level buckets. So one is a threat detection. So as we know, we live in a dynamic threat landscape today, right? Every day, you hear threats. Every week, you hear threats. Target, Home Depot, Sony, recently, a big one, Anthem, right? You got to assume that you are going to be breached if you are not already breached, right? So that's our assumption, right? So you got to prepare for that. You got to prepare yourself that you're going to continuously, plan to detect anything that abnormal is going on in your system. So that's first one. So you got to be prepared with a threat detection. The second one is a compliance perspective, right? You have compliance requirements. Every company has a compliance requirements that includes making sure that your security posture of your cloud services, right, O365, is configured based on what your company's compliance requirements are. So the things include security configurations, authentication policy, for example. It includes looking at your privileged users, looking at your policies, like DLP policies, for example, right? Your audit controls, your administrative users, their roles, system identities, encryption tokens, right? Are you rotating your keys, the keys, the encryption keys that you are using in your system, right? All of those things fall under the compliance security configuration. So that's what second bucket. You got to continuously, looking at those configurations and then keeping them compliant. The third one is the very high level, again, the incident response. So what we've seen is in many companies, they have their own processes. By the time the incident is detected or created, and then by the time the incident is remediated, it's a multi-stage process, multi-step process. It takes days, weeks, and months in some cases. So you got to get better than that. You got to be faster. When something is detected, you got to go fix it immediately, or you got to reduce the time. Now, added all these 3 things combined, right, is very, very critical for you to have a positive security posture. Now, combine this, it gets complex when you have multiple clouds. If your company is using multiple cloud systems, now imagine if we had to do these things in every cloud in a siloed way. So that's where we come in. That's where our solution comes in. So LORIC is our platform, our product name. It's a complete platform that allows, that supports threat detection. We look at the entire cloud, O365, OneDrive, Azure, Active Directory now, Salesforce. If you have other clouds, we are looking at continuous and then detecting the threats. The predictive analytics is something, we look at your data, we look at the activities going on in your systems, and then we are able to detect early indicators of threats. It may not be a threat yet, but we are looking at some signals there in the system. So this is how we are preparing your security operations guys, your IT administrators. Right? The third thing is the compliance perspective. The continuous monitoring. We are looking at the O365 environment, right? You activity field using other approaches. We'll talk about that. Ways to keep it not just one time, but ongoing basis.
Yeah.
Ongoing basis, we are able to identify if there is any drift in the configuration. Someone set a policy, and then without even maliciously or purposefully or unpurposefully they made changes to the policies. Someone has to be notified immediately. Otherwise, it could be a risk to the company. So the last one is the incident response. So we've done, integrations. Is it okay?
Yeah, if you stand at one place, it's okay. Okay.
So the last one is the incident response. We've done integration with your existing, what system you may have, your ITs, you're able to, integrate with that. So with that, let me jump into the demo. So this is a live demo. If it doesn't work, I'm going to blame on the internet here. But can everyone see it, or is it too small, the font?
That's good.
It's good? Okay. So what I'm showing here is just a dashboard. I logged in as one of our customers. It's a SaaS service, what we have built here. And it's a single pane of glass. So here I'm monitoring O365. I'm monitoring Salesforce and Amazon and ServiceNow. And then each application here has a risk, red, green, and yellow. Red means there is threats in your system. You got to act on it. And then, yellow means there are issues, and the green means everything is fine. So the discussion here is about Office 365 today. Let's drill down into that. So what I'm seeing here is, over the week or so, we've been monitoring the O365 environment, and then we identified few issues. So let's go drill into the risk colors that we identified. So here we are able to. So here what I'm showing here is, this data is coming from the OneDrive. We are able to find out that there is a document that is being monitored and is being downloaded by a user who is not supposed to be downloading this content. So that's what this is showing here. And as a security administrator or a security operator, if I am the one monitoring all your cloud systems, I'll be able to look at this and I'll be able to take an action on that by creating an incident. I will not talk about the incidents today, but if any of you are interested, I'm available here. You can always talk to me offline. But they can take an action out of this risk here. So let's talk about the second scenario. So here, this is an interesting scenario. So some, the administrators, based on the compliance, they put a policy, DLP policy, on the Exchange server side, wherein that policy says that you cannot attach financial documents in your emails. That's what the policy is about. It has been hardened, it has been put in there, but someone has went and then disabled that policy. So when this happens, this is a big risk to a company. So we are able to detect that, and then we are able to give it as an actionable item for the security administrator looking at this. So now let's go back to the other interesting part here. So threats. So these are the threats that we derived or we detected in the Office 365 environment here, including Office 365. So this specific one here, I'm talking about the cross cloud. So I'm looking at both Salesforce and Office 365. So this specific case here is, I have a user who is logging into Salesforce. This is Office, he logged in here into Office 365 from somewhere in the United States. He's logged into Salesforce. But these logins happen in less than 1 minute. So now we are looking at a single pane of perspective. We are looking at the entire cloud footprint, as I mentioned, right? So with that entire visibility, we are able to look at your users' activity not just from one cloud, but correlate that across other clouds also. So that's what we are seeing here. This is one sample here. So we are able to detect that this could be a possibly an account hijack scenario here. That's what we are showing here. So let's talk about another interesting one here. And then the data for this one, this thread also came from Azure Active Directory and OneDrive on the SharePoint. So here what we are seeing is on April 27th, we've seen a user had 35 login failures. Few login failures are okay, but 35 is not normal. So we said, okay, there is something is going on here. So we alerted this as a possible account hijack scenario. So now as an administrator, as a SOC guy, when I look at this, my immediate question is going to be, can you tell me more about this situation, right? You're telling me that there is a login failures here. Now let's go look at that. So what we do is we provide a lot of contextual data around that event, in that application, around that user. Now what we are seeing here is on 27, there is a user, a lot of failed logins happened, and then right after that they gone down. And then on 429, we've seen a lot of file downloads from OneDrive. And then if you go further, you see this activity continues to go on, but now the activity, there are about 37 activities coming from the suspicious IP addresses. So it's clearly the indication here is that there is a breach going on here. On 27th, attack started by account brute force, and the user was able to compromise the credentials. And then using that, they are now attacking, they are continuing to attack the system and then trying to steal whatever they imported to them, right? So this is what really allows a SOC guy or IT security guy to look at the system and then decide whether is it a false positive or is it really a threat, right? If it's a false positive, he can close it and then move on. If it's a real threat, now he can continue to go on this workflow. There is a view incident. You can click on that, you can create an incident, or you can assign it to the right guy, you can call up the guy, and then act on it immediately, right? So this, and then there's a lot of information here. If you go on here, it gives every activity that we have seen all these clouds. So this is a very good within O365. We are able to correlate all this activity, and then again, all this is coming from the activity feed APIs, and we use some PowerShell stuff also underneath. But look forward to getting these new APIs. So let me turn back here. So that wraps my demo. Just to summarize, I talked about these use cases. So from the architecture perspective, what you have seen is really, we are able to do the active monitoring. Using that, we are able to detect threats. We are able to configuration monitoring. So that's how I was able to detect the DLP policy, right? The policies and the inactive, non-compliant downloads of documents. The predictive analytics, I have not shown that in the demo, but we show some key security indicators that really gives your security guys alerts. That's something we do on the predictive base. What we see in your security, the users, where they are coming from, mobile devices, IoT devices, coffee shops, airports. Based on the user activity, we are able to predict few things there. So that's what the predictive analytics. And the remediation is all about how we, once we know the issue, right, how fast can we go fix it, right? So once you fix it, we continue to monitor it, right? It's a 24/7, right? So that's what it is all about, right? So the architecture is concerned, there is an API layer. That's what we use underneath. In O365 case, we are using activity feeds, PowerShell. Different clouds we use different things. But if you have questions, if you want to talk to me, I'll be around here. Feel free to,
Thank you, Ganesh.
All right. Thanks.